I'm going to finish human geography videos today, hopefully, and actually upload them. In this video right now, I'm going to do tourism. It's quite a long topic, so I might split it into two videos because there's like 6 pages or something here, and it's just key points, basically. I would use my notes, but I probably can't read them properly, so it's going to be more effective if I just read up here, because I can read it. Okay, so section A is the global growth of tourism and how it's seen the exploitation of a range of different environments for holidaymakers. So world tourism has increased dramatically, and the greatest growth seems to have occurred from the 1970s onwards. Growth of tourism is expected to continue in the future. If you look at this graph, you can see the number of tourists is growing. And you might get a question on that in your exam where you have to look at a graph and analyse the data, and this is why you bring in a calculator to make yourself so smart in case you don't have anything else to write. So this tourism growth has occurred because people have more holiday time now. UK workers have at least 3 weeks a year, which is far more than they had previously. Rise in real wages. Well, people have more disposable income now because there's the minimum wage, there's more disposable income because they get paid more in relation to what they need. Also because the economy is in a lot better place than we were years ago. We're more developed than we were years ago. There's more people working in the service sector, and in the service sector you generally earn more money than if you were working in like raw materials. Basically primary would be raw materials and tertiary would be service sector if you're being really posh and technical and smart. So there's better transport, particularly cheap flights. Companies such as Ryanair and EasyJet have enabled many people to go on more short-haul journeys, and regional airports make it quicker. Car ownership has enabled people to visit places in the UK, and it's also enabled people to drive to nearby countries, like getting the ferry to France or something. People see holiday now as a necessity rather than a luxury because it's fashionable. Lots of people go on holiday, so it's sort of a thing to do. There's a lot more advertising, media, and this makes people aware of the opportunities for holidays they have and want to go. There's also an increase in technology. You can now book holidays widely on the internet, and that saves time. You don't have to go to the travel agents and bother dressing to go out. You can just kind of book a holiday in your pajamas. And yeah, the increase in the 1950s and 60s was to do with all-inclusive or package holidays. This, combined with cheap air travel, enabled people to visit the Mediterranean. Technological improvements have enabled people to travel to more long-haul destinations such as the Caribbean as airfares have reduced. So tourist numbers are forecasted to reach 1.6 billion by 2020, and this will continue to be fueled by people from MEDCs going abroad. Often it's just as cheap to go to abroad as it is to holiday at home. Crucially, developing countries will start to have people wishing to go on holiday. Chinese people are now going to Thailand, Sydney and Paris as they have more money, and they're expected to be a number of the tourists by 2020, and they are described as the new tourists. So what areas are particularly suited to development as a result of tourism? Well, cities such as London, Paris, New York, Las Vegas. Young adults, singles and couples often go there, and recently retired people, because it's exciting. There's shopping, there's nightlife, there's sightseeing and culture, which is art, food and theatre. There's also the mountains such as the Lake District, the Alps, the Himalayas, the Rockies and the Andes. Sightseers visit, people who enjoy the natural environment, mountain bikers, climbers, walkers and skiers. This is because of its natural beauty, physical challenge and winter sports. Coasts such as Blackpool, the Jurassic Coast, Miami and the Maldives. Water sports enthusiasts visit. Young people with families, retired people and walkers. They visit because of the sun, sand and the sea. People are very attracted to sunny, nice white beach holidays. You know, just let's go sunbathe on the beach for a whole day. Water sports and outdoor activities and the natural environment. So how far do we go? Well, domestic destinations are located in the tourist zone country. Short-haul destinations can be reached by a flight of less than 3 hours. For people in the UK, this means the Mediterranean, and people in Europe. Long-haul destinations are a longer flight than 3 hours. These often include tropical destinations such as Jamaica, Kenya and Thailand. In the UK, 52 million domestic holidays are taken, 47 million short-haul and 13 million long-haul flights are taken a year. The top destination for people in the UK is Spain. 20 million of the 60 million foreign holidaymakers go there. The USA is Britain's favourite long-haul destination. So tourism is important to many countries in the world. Many LEDCs rely heavily on tourism. It can make a huge difference to their economics through the creation of jobs. The income gained can also be used to invest in infrastructure, bridges, roads, improved water supplies. These can allow a country to develop as a result and can be measured by seeing what percentage of GDP, which is gross domestic product, is created by tourism. Some examples are the Caribbean. St. Lucia relies heavily on tourism, 37% of its GDP, and Gambia in Africa, which is 17% of its GDP, which is quite high for Africa because often the GDP figures for tourism are below 10%. In Europe, it varies between countries. In Spain, tourism accounts for 16% of its GDP, but in Romania, it only accounts for 6%. In Maldives, 30% of the GDP comes from tourism, which is very high, making tourism very important there. Okay, so section B is effective management strategies being the key to continuing prosperity of tourist areas in the UK. So in the UK, tourism is important because it's 8% of our GDP and 1 in 20 people, which is 1.3 million, work in jobs related to the tourist industry. An increase in visitors to museums, galleries, castles means that they make money and can be kept open, which means that local people can enjoy. Parts of the UK are unspoiled and people like to visit these areas. Places such as national parks are maintained and managed as a result of the income gained from these people. Tourism also helps improve the UK's image around the world. We have a reputation for beauty and history. Heritage tourism is important as a result. The royal family is very popular for foreign tourists, with millions each year visiting Buckingham Palace. A lot of interest would have occurred as a result of Prince William and Catherine Middleton's marriage. Liverpool was designated European City of Culture in 2008, and as a result, a new audience of people was attracted to the city. Investment was made in the area, providing new facilities and housing, which just goes to show what tourism can do for the country. So what affects visitor numbers in the UK? Well, visitor numbers can vary and they depend on external factors which are beyond the UK's control. Exchange rate, well, visitors convert their currency into pounds. If their currency is strong, they'll get more pounds when they convert their money. This will make Britain appear cheaper and they will come. If the currency is weak compared to the pound, Britain will appear more expensive and less will come. Security, terrorism. Attacks can put people off. There's the 7/7 bombings, which this person wrote tracks instead of attacks. Right, it's a geography teacher in my school. So attacks can put people off. State of the global economy. If the economy is doing well, people will have more money and be more likely to travel abroad. The UK would be a beneficiary of this. So, development of a tourist area can be modelled with the Butler model, which is used for this purpose. It plots the life cycle of an area and shows the numbers of tourists can be expected to change over many years. Initially, there are a few numbers of tourists, which is the exploration stage. And then, when locals realise they have a good place to visit, they become involved, which is stage 2. Mass development then occurs, but after a while, people can become fed up with going to the same location, e.g. Spanish resorts, and the resort starts to stagnate. At that point, visitors could fall, which is the declining, but equally things could start to grow again if investment is made. For example, in the 1980s, Portsmouth and Southsea rebranded from being a beach holiday resort to one that focused on the maritime history. Numbers grew as a result, so here would be the Butler model, which was in our mock, which was off last year's paper, or the question was off last year's paper, so it probably won't come up this year, but just in case. So we need a case study for this bit. In school we use the Lake District. I think many schools probably use the Lake District, so I'm going to go through that. So national parks were set up after the Second World War with two aims: to preserve and care for the environment and to provide a place for recreation and enjoyment. The Lake District has over 8 million people visiting each year and only 42,000 residents. This is mainly due to location. Many cities are nearby and the M6 motorway means it is accessible. There's human reasons to go there, such as Windermere, Kendal, Keswick, Ambleside, and the various activities that could be joined in the area. And for physical, it's the actual lakes and mountains. For example, Lake Windermere, which is England's longest lake, Derwent Water, Scafell Pike, which is the highest mountain in England, and Helvellyn. There's also people use the area to cycle, rock climb, educate, walk, hand glide, but all these activities cause conflict. There's a lot of heritage as well in the Lake District. William Wordsworth and Beatrix Potter were both writers who lived in the Lake District. Tourism is good for the Lake District because 20,000 people were employed in the area full time and 35,000 on a seasonal basis. £600 million is spent a year. Tourism keeps post offices, shops and buses busy. These are then kept open for locals. Food demand keeps local farmers in business. Farmers can also benefit from opening campsites and by turning old buildings into holiday apartments. Money from parking charges can be used to invest in roads and leisure centres, which will benefit locals. The problems with tourism in the Lake District are congested roads with too many cars and slow-moving caravans. Locals can't get around easily and it disrupts emergency services. Some towns have become completely changed by tourist shops. Locals may have no trouble finding walking boots in Ambleside, but might struggle to buy a loaf of bread if they do. The prices are often high. Visitors buy second homes, which pushes up house prices. Locals are pushed out of the area and local services like schools can close as a result. Tourists walk over farmers' land, damaging crops and leaving gates open. Tourists disrupt the peace and quiet, particularly on lakes with water sports. So in the Lake District, the government has funded the Lake District National Park Authority, which is the LDNPA, and they look after the interests of the park and the people within. Cumbria Tourism also attempts to promote sustainable tourism growth. The National Trust buys land to preserve it, often keeping it as farmland, which local farmers manage. Other solutions have been suggested, such as a national park entry charge, which reduces congestion, but it could discourage visitors. Limiting visitor numbers. Well, perhaps a limit of numbers or preventing people from walking in the same area would reduce environmental impact, but it may not be monitored and it limits people's freedom. Repairing worn-out paths. Local stone could be used and it would keep popular paths open, however it can be expensive and the stone footpaths can look a little odd. Building a bypass. This would relieve pressure on busy towns and reduce pollution, but the glacial valleys can mean there's not enough space and cost is a real problem. Improving public transport. Using more buses and trains and making the railway line double track would be expensive and may require subsidies to keep the services running. Part C. Mass tourism has advantages for an area. but strategies need to be in place to reduce the long-term damage. Mass tourism is where large numbers of tourists visit the same destination. Most are short-haul destinations such as Spain, but long-haul destinations such as Jamaica have become more popular since the 1980s. Tour companies arrange special flights called charter flights to transport people to the destination. Often these holidays include flights, airport transfers and accommodation. These are called package holidays. If food is also included, then this type of holiday is called all-inclusive. So, a case study to use is Jamaica. Jamaica has roughly the same temperature all year, and it's dry for like a few months of the year. Like in the winter months it's dry, and the wettest month is October. Sun, sea and sand are the main reasons for going to Jamaica, and a number of resorts have been developed because of this. Ochos Rios, where Dunn's River Falls is nearby, and beaches. Montego Bay with its golf courses, fine dining and beaches. And Negril with white sandy beaches, a 7-mile beach and fine hotels. Many locations have all-inclusive hotels with their own beaches. Many tourists never venture outside of a hotel. This is obviously a problem which we will come across later. So the positives and negatives of tourism in Jamaica. Well, the positives are businesses employ local Jamaican staff, and Jamaican tourism workers spend their wages in either Jamaican businesses, which leads to further employment, which is multiplier effect. Skills learned for the tourist industry can be used in other sectors of the economy, and taxation of tourism businesses allow the government to use it to spend on developing the country. The money from tourists make business, such as hotels, profitable. Resorts become richer, and tourism jobs pay well compared to Jamaican standards. The negatives are economic leakage. The government receives less taxation, so Jamaica can't develop as quickly as a result. Jobs are seasonal, and many tourism businesses are foreign owned, so much of the profits end up abroad. Some tourism staff are foreigners, and they take their wages home and do not spend it in Jamaica. Tourist areas attract Jamaicans from poor inland areas. Businesses here and lose out. This can lead to inequalities within the country. So, the environmental positives and negatives. The taxi minibus from the airport emits exhaust gases and adds to noise levels and traffic congestion. Landscaping Montego Bay town has made it more attractive for visitors. The water treatment plant at Logwood limits pollution from Negril's hotels. The Great Morass wetland has been partly drained to reclaim land for hotels in Negril. Tourists don't like high-rise buildings spoiling the view, so all hotels are low-rise to limit their visual impact. The Negril Marine Park Nature Reserve has been established to help preserve sea life that tourists, snorkelers and divers want to see. Clearing mangroves to develop tourism has led to beach erosion, obviously because mangroves dissipate the wave energy. Coral reefs have been damaged by jet skiers and motor tankers. Tourism can be made more sustainable in Jamaica. Jamaica is quite poor, and the GDP is $8,000 a year, which in the UK is apparently £36,000. What? No, wait, I'm confused. Right, let's just start this again. Jamaica is poor. The GDP is $8,000 a year, but in the UK the GDP is $36,000 a year, and they're desperate to raise living standards. 45% of all income from abroad comes from tourism, so tourism is vital to the economy. Giving up on tourism is therefore not an option, so to try and make things more sustainable they have followed a number of strategies. The Jamaica government has been following a master plan to try and develop sustainable tourism. Its three main ideas have been to limit the development of mass tourism to existing resorts like Ocho Rios, spread small-scale tourism to other parts of the island, involve local people more, The government has encouraged community tourism, where local people running small-scale guest houses. This helps bring tourists to less developed towns such as Fort Antonio without mass tourism's negative effects. Responsible tourism, which involves local people and aims to do as little harm as possible. For example, local guides taking visitors to off-beaten-track attractions such as the Rio Grande River. Tourists are encouraged to buy local food and crafts from Jamaican traders. Smaller inland hotels employ local staff and use locally grown food. Tourists and local people can get in touch with each other through the Jamaican Tourist Board's Meet the People website initiative. This helps both visitors and locals to understand each other, which is an important benefit of tourism. Educating tourists and locals about how to avoid negative environmental impacts. Part D. Extreme environments are susceptible to environmental damage from the development of tourism. So extreme environments are places where people find it difficult to live. There are no farms or cities. They're wild and inhospitable. Places such as deserts, rainforests and mountains are often deemed to be extreme environments. So the case study for this is Antarctica, which is centred at the South Pole. It's very cold. Lows between -30 and -60 degrees centigrade are common, and they can creep just above zero at the coast. The wilderness. Hardly anyone is there, and there's no building apart from scientific research stations. Icy landscapes. Nobody has lived there since 1897, but some occupy research stations during the year. It's the highest continent in the world. It's also huge and 1.5 times bigger than the USA. So why go to Antarctica, and how has it been possible? Well, there's an ease of access and comfort. There's more tour operators and comfortable cruise ships used to explore the continent. Great for ecotourism. People want to visit wild places because of the attraction of the natural environment, but people don't want to harm it. Financial factors, for example, the grey market, which is more affluent retired people. In 1992, 6,700 people visited Antarctica. 45,000 went in 2009, which is 6 times as many. Once there, people can fly over the ice in helicopters, rock or ice climb. You're not going to be doing any climbing on rock in Antarctica. I'm pretty sure it's mainly just ice. Cruise inlets on small boats, hike, scuba diving, and kayaking. Well, scuba diving is going to be very cold, isn't it? And kayaking. What impact does this have on Antarctica? Well, it disturbs wildlife and affects breeding and feeding of young. Ship accidents. These can happen in treacherous icy waters, and wrecks can leak oil which pollutes the sea and beaches. This harms wildlife. The Canadian ship Explorer sank in 2007 and leaked oil into the sea. The impact of tourism is fairly limited at the moment, as tourist numbers are not that high. Cost is prohibitive for many, £25,000 for a 7-day trip per person. Also, numbers are limited and controlled internationally. Having said that, numbers are on the increase and the fragile environment will be put under more threat. So, to look after Antarctica, many methods have been put in place, such as the Treaty of Antarctica. This has been in force since 1961. Nearly 50 countries signed up to this to protect Antarctica from mining, drilling, pollution and war. Until 1948, the treaty was then extended to incorporate tourism. So after 1948, it was extended to incorporate tourism. Scientists examine ice, sea, weather and plants, and by raising awareness for what's going on, then protection of the environment will become increasingly likely. Tourists often visit research stations. Tourism. There's the International Association of Antarctica. Tourist operators, IAATO, was set up in 1991. Guidelines were provided in areas such as how many people can be let on shore and how people can conduct whale watching. Tour operators are not allowed to leave anything behind, no rubbish. Also, used water on the cruise ships has to be taken back and not dumped in the sea. In 2010, the British government suggested to those who signed up to the Antarctic Treaty that a new agreement covering tourism was needed. We want to limit numbers of tourists and also prevent hotels from being built. A successful agreement would allow tourism to develop sustainably. Shipping regulations. After 2011, ships have not been allowed to use heavy fuel oil, which is the most polluting, and the Polar Code. From 2013, the Polar Code will limit the size and number of ships going to Antarctica. Ships with more than 500 people won't be able to land, and only 100 tourists will be allowed ashore at any given time. So, what are adventure holidays? A holiday to Antarctica would be classed as being adventurous. Adventure travel is a type of tourism involving exploration or travel with perceived and possibly actual risk, and potentially requiring specialized skills and physical exertion. Holidays such as these, as well as others such as ecotourism, have increased in popularity due to a number of factors. But this is mainly because people want to try something different. People have got fed up going to Spanish resorts every year, and the rise in real wages, holiday time, and operators actually providing such experiences has enabled it to happen. New Zealand is a particularly popular destination for this sort of holiday. White water rafting, bungee jumping, and glacier walks. Fun holiday. So part E, sustainability requires the development of ecotourism. Tourism can bring many benefits to a country, but it can also bring many negative impacts too. People are now becoming increasingly aware of this and are trying to still experience tourism without necessarily causing any damage. Sustainable means the needs of the present population without damaging the environment and local community for future generations. Ecotourism are holidays that have little or no damage to the natural environment and local community. Stewardship is caring for the environment as a place as though it was our own. It means carefully looking after animals, plants, animals, and people who live there. So ecotourism places emphasis upon protecting the environment, but also involves local people in making decisions that affect our land and living. The role of the locals is what makes it different from any other tourism. Typical ecotourist destinations are places like coral reefs, game reserves, and national parks. For case studies, there's Kenya and North Island Seychelles. So the Seychelles have low impact, high-end tourism. Kate and Will went here for their honeymoon. Don't need to put that in your exam, just irrelevant information apparently I didn't know. The aim is to turn the clock back 200 years and get rid of all the non-indigenous species and to clean the surrounding corals. The island is seen as a Noah's Ark as species are reintroduced. Tourists can get involved by helping count species and clearing litter from the reefs when scuba diving. Tourists can catch dinner by going to the forest to collect vegetables and fruits, also going fishing. People arrive by helicopter as there is no airport nor harbour, so there's definitely no mass tourism. The accommodation is made from materials found on the beach and the forest. The 11 villas are by the beach and extremely luxurious. All this comes at quite a high price, about €2,000 per person per night. This is why normal people who don't have a lot of money don't go on ecotourism holidays. I don't have €2,000 a night. I don't know many people who do have €2,000 a night. That's a lot. This proceeds from tourism helps people continue their conservation aims for North Island. Okay, so now we have ecotourism in the Amazon. We didn't do this either. Global warming is cutting down the trees, which means more carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. It's far better to keep the trees there. Cutting the trees down for money means that more water reaches the river. Also, sediment no longer kept together by roots gets into the river, thus causing more flooding. Indigenous people. Clearing the forest for money means natives lose their way of life. Tourism will not happen if trees are cleared. People want to see the forest and the species. Communities need to see the value of their forest. The ecosystem. The rainforest is fragile. Clearing the trees can lead to extinction of plants and animals. Many potential future medicines could be lost. So there's a need for stewardship and conservation, which is where ecotourism comes in. So the Yachana Eco Lodge in the Amazon forest in Ecuador is an example. Essentially, it's a small environmentally friendly hotel that is surrounded by nature. It's next to the Napo River, close to the village of Mondana, and set in its own 1,200 hectare section of a rainforest. Every room has a view of the forest with a private bathroom and a hot shower. Food is served in the dining room using locally grown products. Many of the workers are locals and work in the garden, kitchen and dining room. Amerindians are also employed as guides to show the forest and local traditions. Activities are done in small groups and do little damage to the environment and local people. They educate people about the environment and lives of local people. Activities include rainforest hiking, bird watching, swimming in the Napo River, canoeing, visiting the local village, taking part in traditional ceremony, and visiting a local biological research station. So ecotourism can benefit people because environmentally, economically, and people's lives. So environmentally, trees are not cut down as they are seen as an asset. Ecotourism on a small scale and small numbers means little damage is done. Trees not being cut down is good globally as it can reduce the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere because the photosynthesis equation. It's like carbon dioxide and water to glucose and oxygen. Is that right? Is that right? Yachana Lodge recycles all of its waste and uses renewable solar power. For the economy, well, it employs mostly local people. Their wages are spent in local markets. Local farmers have a potential new market, the tourists and the local workers who now no longer grow their own food. Ecotourists spend the money in local villages, which puts money into the local economy. So as a result of ecotourism, people's lives are affected. Because of jobs, locals may have money to pay for more consumer goods, TV, radio. This could, however, be negative, but the younger people welcome this. Extra money can be invested in healthcare and education, results in a higher literacy levels and life expectancy. Less people feel the need to move away. So ecotourism can lead to sustainable development. The old methods of cutting trees down did nothing but damage. Soil and nutrients were washed away and farming wasn't really an option as a result once the trees were removed. Ecotourism has meant that local people realise that keeping the forest actually makes money. The forest is what people come to see, so any activities must be sure that no damage is done. This ensures there is long-term prosperity for the area. So yes, that is tourism done. Bye.